Hi everybody, it's John here again, and this time I'm doing a video where in Unity, using the Playground project library, I want to create a game that is a kind of an Asteroids type game. So let's get started, and we'll start off with our player. Now, well, actually, first of all, create a scene. It's something I didn't show you in the last video. Now I'm going to, here in Assets, I've created a folder here called Scenes, one here for Coder Dojo, and in here I'm just going to click on Create, and then we can say Scene, and I'll call it Asteroids. Alright, so that's our scene, and I'm going to double click that to open it. Okay, we've got it open. So it's blank and so forth at the moment, so let's get started. First of all, click on Prefabs, and we have the user interface. We're going to move across. So this is one of our games where we're going to have points and so forth. Next thing I want to create like a spaceship. So go down to Sprites, and then I'll go into Ships, and I'll go for this one here, Player Ship 1 Orange. I'll move this across here. There, and I'm going to rename that. I'll just call it Player. Now it's going to be the spaceship. I've renamed it Player. I'm also going to tag it as Player. Its position here, so I'm just going to center it up a little bit. So it's setting its transform position X to 0. Y, I'm going to say -4. That seems to be about the right where I want it. Everything else I can leave the same. Now, what else do we want to do? So if we press play, just sitting there, not doing anything. Okay, so what next thing we want to do is we want to be able to fly this spaceship about. So what I want to do is an Asteroids type game. I want to be able to rotate the spaceship left and right using the arrows, and I want to be able to push it in the direction it's pointing using the up arrow. Okay, so what do I need to do? Next thing I need to do is create a rigid body. So add component, physics 2D, and I'll say rigid body 2D. This is going to be in space, so for the rigid body I want to set gravity to 0. So just gravity 0, enter. Everything else should be okay, I think, at the moment. And then I'm going to give it a collider. So I'll say add component, physics 2D, and it's kind of in an irregular shape, so I'll give it a polygon collider 2D. Right, and what else do I need to do? Okay, I need to be able to rotate this. Okay, so I want to get a script. So over to scripts and do it movement. And here's a script called rotate with arrows. So I'll just move down here, and I will drop this rotate with arrow script onto my player. Okay, that's done. So type of control, arrow keys, rotation speed 5. So if I change that to, I'll change it to 2, just to make it a little bit less responsive in the rotation, because if it rotates too fast it's going to be hard to control. In fact, I might even change to 1. Okay, so let's see what happens there. Press play. Now if I use the arrows left and right, if I go right, I'm rotating to the right. If I go left, rotating anti-clockwise. So left is anti-clockwise, right is clockwise. Here, and I can spin around. Very good. Okay, but if I'm pushing any other button, nothing happens. Okay, so now the next thing I want him to do is be able to move in the direction he's pointing. So I'll use the script here called push with button. So I'll bring that script down here, add it to my player ship, and what I'll say is I don't want to use the space bar, I want to use the up arrow. So I can go down here, scroll down, I should eventually come across the arrows. Here we are, up arrow. There we go. So I'll say up arrow, push strength. I'll just change that to 5 maybe for the moment. Let's see. And the axis. Okay, what axis am I going to? I want him to go like the x-axis is left to right, the y-axis is up and down. So it's the y-axis I want him to get a push on, and its relative axis I want to have clicked as true, because that means as he turns around, it's always going to be relative to him, so it's going to push him forwards. So the y-axis isn't up on the screen. If he's pointing to the right, it'll be his forward direction, which will be right. So let's see what that does. Play, so he can rotate as before, and now if I do up arrow as well, he starts going forwards, so I can rotate and I can kind of steer around with some difficulty, but hey, there we go, come back down, come over here. There, so no, it's hard to control, but that's part of the game, I guess. Now, what else do we want our player to do? We want him to be able to rotate, be able to move, and what else? The next thing is we will want him to have a health attribute. So this is the health of 3. We're going to have asteroids for him to bang off of, and if he hits the asteroid, he will lose health. So we're going to go up here to the scripts, attributes, and there is the, let's see now, it's the health system attribute, because this is the one that's going to actually have the health system. Oh, sorry. Didn't get down here. There we go. So health system attribute, value of 3. So when that gets down to 0, the player has lost the game. Okay, so let's see now, what else do we need to do? We want him to be able to shoot. Now the thing is, for him to be able to shoot, we have to create something that he can shoot. And to do that, we have to create another object, and we're going to do something that's called create a prefab, as we've seen at the, let's say, with the user interface, but we're going to create a prefab of a laser blast, we'll call it. So what is this? It's going to be a sprite to begin with. So we'll go down to sprites, and we'll go down to, let's see now, blocks, no, what do we want to use? We want to use effects projectiles. Here we go. So let's say laser blue 04. That one there looks about right. I'm going to move this across here for the minute. So that's the projectile we're going to use. Now I'm going to rename this, and I'll call it laser blast. Return. And the next thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to pull it from here where it's in the scene. I'm going to bring it across over here to my prefabs folder. So here's my prefabs folder. So I'm going to take it from here and I'm going to pull it across here to prefabs folder. Now if I drop it on the prefabs folder, you'll notice it now has become a prefab, and it's also gone blue here on the list in the scene. So the fact it's blue means it's actually a prefab. And that also means I can delete it from the scene because I don't really want it there. So just press delete. What else do I want to do? Okay, so I can go over here in the prefabs, click on laser blast and start making changes. First thing I'll do is I'll tag it because it's going to be a bullet, or at least it's a projectile of a weapon of some type. Position, I'm just going to give it a position 0. Now the Y position in the transform, now I'm going to say minus 1.8. Now the reason for this is when we are firing it, it's going to start behind, at the back of the ship and fire forward, so we kind of just need to set it back a little bit for it to work. So what else do we need to do? We have the sprite, we have its position, and we're going to fire it. Okay, we need to give it a rigid body. Okay, so say add component, physics 2D, rigid body 2D. Now this, we're going to say use auto mass, because this is going to be something we're firing. We don't really want it to to kind of get bogged down and kind of hitting off things and bouncing off them too much, but we just want to use this auto mass for the moment. Now we also need to use a collider. It's kind of boxy in shape, so I'd say add component, physics 2D, box collider. And in the box collider, we will need to say that this is it's going to use a trigger. So it's trigger set to yes. And the next thing we're going to do is, say for a laser blast, when we fire a laser blast, we don't want them going on forever. We want them to go for a certain distance and then disappear. Basically, you've got a range. That's a certain range is the idea. So there's a script here in destruction called timed self-destruct. We're going to drop that down onto the prefab. And so this means that it'll self-destruct after a certain period of time. And we will say 2, I guess. We can play with these figures afterwards anyway. Now, the next thing we want to do is... Let's see what we're going to do. We'll leave it at that for the moment, I think. Just save. We'll go back to the player, and we want the player to be able to fire the laser blast. So go back to player, and we will go here, and there is another script we need to get for player. And where's it gone again? Actions, and it is the object shooter script I'm looking for. Conditions, no. Movement. Hang on a second now. Conditions. Where's this gone? There should be one here. Okay, destruction now. Where did this go? Creation. Here we are. Object shooter. It's under creation. So it's scripts and creation. So we're going to create something. So object shooter. And we will pull this down here onto player. And so this spawns an object to be shot out of the current game object. So we're going to say, well, what's the prefab to spawn? So if you click on there's this little box there that says what's the name of the prefab to use, and just to the right of it there's a little circle with a dot in the middle. If you click on that circle with the dot, it lists prefabs that are in the current project. Now we're using this one here, Laser Blast. So we'll click on that, and then we can close it with close that window. And we're saying that's what we want to do. Key to press the spacebar. So yes, we're going to be shoot when we press the spacebar. Creation rate. So how quickly do will it kind of shoot these? And then when it shoots them, how fast do they go? So we'll just leave those as 0.5 and 5 for the moment, and that should be okay. Save again as we go along. And press play. What does this do? So we're rotating left and right as before. We're able to move, and if we press space, oh dear, that's not a very good laser. Okay, and so what do we need to change? We need to go back to the prefab, back to laser blast, and I think the problem here is gravity is working on our laser beam, so we don't need that. So change gravity scale to 0 and press play again. And I'll just press space. Yay, there we go, laser. So okay, going forward. And it's firing them in pretty much straight lines. Good. Now what else do we need to do? So we have our player ship. It's moving around. It's firing out laser beams or laser blasts as it goes. The next thing we need to do is we need to create asteroids. That's something for it to shoot at. So again, we are going to use prefabs in this. So we'll go down here to sprites and okay, there's one there called asteroids. So I'll use this one here. It says Meteor Brown Big 4. Sounds good. We'll move it across, and I'll just put it there for the moment. Rename it. I'll just rename it Asteroid. Okay, and What else do we want to do with the asteroid? We want to give it a tag. It's going to be the enemy. And transform, I'll just put it 0, 0. So just center it up there in the middle of the screen for the moment. Sprite, it's all okay. What else do we need here? We need rigid body 2D. Now the idea here is that we're going to have asteroids falling from the top of the screen and the ship has to shoot them. That's the idea. So we're going to actually use gravity on the asteroids. The idea, so it's like you're flying through an asteroid belt and the asteroids are whizzing by you and you have to avoid them and shoot them at the same time. So we'll say add component, physics 2D, rigid body 2D, and what we want to do, we will just leave gravity at 1, that's fine. I don't think I need to do anything else with that. We need to give it a collider, so add component, physics 2D again. We'll say polygon collider because it's an irregular shape, and I'm just going to give it a kind of, actually speaking of irregular shape, I'm going to stretch it out a bit. Here in the transform at scale, on the X scale, I'm going to change that to 2 just to make it a bit wider. It makes it a more interesting shape, I think. And what else do we need to do now? We have a polygon collider, and okay, we can get this to rotate as well because asteroids don't just sit there, they kind of rotate as they move along. So there's a script for that. So again, click on our asteroid, go to our scripts, movement, and there is auto rotation. Here we go. Okay, so auto rotation, bring that down here, and it has a rotation speed of 5. What does that do? We'll have a look. Okay, press play. So it's rotating anti-clockwise. Hits the ship and away they go. Now what we can do is rotation. Okay, if it's a positive number, it's going to rotate anti-clockwise. If you want it to rotate clockwise, give it a negative number. So if I said -5, watch it this time, it's going to rotate the other way. Anyway, just to let you know, if you have a preference, that's how you define what direction it rotates. Next thing we're going to do is, we want this is the enemy, so if it hits the ship we want it to affect the health of the ship. So we will use the, let's see now, it's the action, no, attributes actually. It's the modify health attribute script. So I'll bring that down here. So that means if it collides with the player or something that has the health system attribute, it will affect it and change the health system by the health value to -1, so we'll go from 3 to 2 and so forth. And the next thing we want to do is, if this gets destroyed, we want to get points for destroying the asteroids. So there is a script called destroy for points, and we're going to associate this with the asteroid. So where is that going in? Action, here we go. Action, no, it's not there. Conditions, no, where's it gone? Destruction, movement. Try and find this attributes. Here we are. It's an attribute, of course, yeah. Hint is in the name. So it's destroy for points attribute, so it's in the attributes folder. Now, I'm just going to mention, I found a bug in the Playground project library to begin with, and this particular script had the wrong name. It was called destroy for score attribute, and it wasn't going to work because the code within the script was calling it destroy for points, and the script itself was called destroy for score. And if the two aren't the same, it won't work. Plus there were some other changes I had to make. Now I've made a separate video about this, and if you haven't seen that, you can search for fixing bug and destroy for points attribute on my channel. So that's there as well if you need to have a look at that. If you're in the Coder Dojo class, I'll talk about it, and I can give you the script corrected anyway. So destroy for points attribute, I'll add that to the asteroid. Put it down there. And so it says if this gets destroyed, you get a point. Okay, so save that much. What do we need to do now? So the next thing we need to do is let's let's see if we can get this thing to be destroyed when we shoot it. So, does that happen at the moment? Let's see. Okay, it does. There we go. So, it gets destroyed because the bullet interacts with it. But the laser beam kept on going, so I need to change the behavior of the laser beam or the laser blast, that it doesn't just keep going after it's destroyed something, it needs to be destroyed as well. So let's do that. Now going back, so that means anyway asteroid is there. We can leave that for the moment. We'll go back to our prefabs and laser blast, and we want to change its behavior a little bit. So we want to give it a destroy script. So let's say, so we'll go down here and we'll go to destruction. No, it's not that, it's actions actually. Destroy action. And we'll get the script called destroy action, bring it down here, and we'll say okay, that's what we want to do. So we're saying, okay, if this is going to be destroyed, what's going to destroy, is it itself or the other object that it collides with? And in this case, the asteroid is actually going to, the code in the asteroid is going to take care of its own destruction. So we don't really need to do that, we just need to destroy the laser blast. So it's not the other object, it's this object. And we'll give it an effect. Again, it's this little circle with a dot, click on that, and there's a prefab which has an effect called asteroid explosion. We'll use that. So what else now? So we need this destroy action to get called at some point, and we do that by using the trigger and the collision trigger. So we will need to create a condition so that if the laser blast enters the area of an enemy, that the laser blast will get destroyed. So go down here to conditions. So there's one here called condition area. We'll add that. And what we're saying is, in the condition area, so it's just going to happen once because it's only going to get destroyed once, it's checking for the tag of enemy. And what's going to happen? The event type will be when it enters the area of the enemy. So if when it enters the area of the enemy, we want it to do something. And here's the list of things that we want it to do. So we'll say plus, and what we want it to do is actually run the script up here. So we can just click on the title of destroy action and drag that down here to this box. So it says that the action that's going to happen when this gets called is that the laser blast is going to get destroyed. Okay, let's see what that does. Save and press play. Well, I should have shot, shouldn't I? Let's try that again. I was admiring my meteor falling towards me. So play again, and let's shoot it this time. Yay! There we are. So we have an explosion. Score goes to 1, and the ship didn't get destroyed or anything. Curiosity now again, just if the meteor, if the asteroid does hit the ship, does it affect the health? It does. Good. Right. So we're nearly there. Actually, this is almost a game, but what we want is more than one asteroid, and we don't want it just starting and straight in front of us and falling, and that's the end of it. We want lots of asteroids. So how do we do that? Okay. What we're going to do is this asteroid, rather than just having one asteroid, we're going to make it a prefab again. So we'll drag the asteroid off the scene over to the prefabs folder. Now it doesn't have to be the prefabs folder, but it makes more sense if you name the folders in a meaningful way. So that's why I'm putting it there. So now asteroid, you can see, has gone blue here in the scene, meaning that it doesn't have to be in the scenes, or it's a prefab. So I'll right click there and I can delete it. We don't need that asteroid anymore. So what do we do now? Where do the asteroids come from? We're going to use an auto spawner script. Now I will show you how to use this in a second. So first of all, we need to create an area where the asteroids can be spawned, and because it's going to fall with gravity, we're going to create an area above the visible window that you're playing the game in, so to speak. So we will create over here. Sorry, I'll just create empty. So it's just a kind of a game object that doesn't have anything in it as such, and I'll rename this asteroid spawner. Okay, and the position of this, I'll say x is going to be 0, and y, well actually just before I do that, I'm going to click on Asteroid Spawner. If I come over to the scene window, while I've got something selected, if I move the mouse cursor over the scene window, if I press the F key on the keyboard, it should show us where it is. Now it's probably very small, so I can't really see it there actually. Okay, you can't see anything yet. So what I'll do is I need to add something to this. I want to add a collider. Physics 2D, D even, box collider. Okay, let's try that again. Come over here, press F, and you can kind of see there's a box there. So the size here is 1 and 1. Now I want to kind of mess around with the size here a little bit, so I'm going to say from the X axis, I'm just going to drag it across so you can see the box getting wider there. So move it across. How wide do we want it? Try some more. That's probably too wide, but about there. So okay, 18. Oops, sounds good. And Y1 is fine because this is going to be moved out of the way above the screen, and one is good. So that's what I'm saying is we want to move this green box that we have here above the playing area. So we want to put it up here. So that's why we're going to use this Y on the transform to move it up there. Okay, so it's up out of the way above the screen. So 5.6, I'll just change it to 6 just to make it neat and tidy. What else do we need to do now? Okay, that's pretty much all we need to do that. Okay, what we need to do is we need to add the code, obviously. So we will go to scripts, create, where's it gone again? Scripts, creation. Here we are, auto object spawner. I'm going to add this here. And what's the object we want to spawn? We want to spawn a asteroid. There we go. Now the way this works is it'll spawn it in an area, so it uses the size of this box collider, and it's going to be spawned somewhere in that green box. Is what it's saying. So let's see what happens. And actually spawn interval 1. How often do you want these spawned? The lower the number, the more often these will be spawned. So I'll just change that maybe to 2 for the minute. And press play again. Okay, oh, there we go. Thankfully that didn't hit us. Oh, there's another one. Okay, spinning wildly. Okay, I'm going to get hit by one of these asteroids by the way we're going. Oh, good. Got it just in time. Well, they seem to be all going off to one side. Well, that's the idea. Right, so that's almost our game. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else we need to do? Come out of play mode. Maybe I'll make the spawning area a little thinner. I'll just pull it in a little bit so that they're not spawning out to the edges of the screens quite so much. So maybe 16 is probably good enough. As a reminder. Let's see, what else do we need to do? Okay, so that is pretty much it, I think, really. Okay, so yes, they're in the same way that the laser beams, we have those self-destructing after a certain period of time. We don't want these asteroids continuing on forever either. So we want them, bear with me now, we want to go to the prefabs. We'll go to prefabs, to asteroid, and we want to give this a self-destruct also. So into scripts, destruction, timed self-destruct, move down here, we'll add that. So we're saying that we want it to self-destruct after a certain number of seconds. We'll just say give it 2. Is that enough? Maybe not. I think it's probably not enough. Let's press play. Maybe it is. Given the speed they're going, probably is actually. Yeah, so 2 seems to be okay. Anyway, let's see now. So that's pretty much the game, I think, actually. So we have a game now where we have a spaceship. Now we can change the speed, actually. I mean, those asteroids are going pretty fast at the moment, so maybe I'll just go back up to prefabs. Asteroid. And the gravity. The drag. I just wonder if I change the drag out. Change the drag out to 4. See what happens. Yeah, we'll slow down. So there we go. And now 2 isn't enough time anymore. They were going a little bit on the fast side. So what you could do is you could have different levels in your game where the drag on the asteroids changes and they speed up. That could work. So I'll come out of here again. I'll go back to asteroid. And self-destruct, I'll give it. It's going to be more than 2, maybe 5. And we'll play around with these figures. See how that goes. Press play. So now we have a thing we can move forward. Where the asteroid? There's an asteroid. Oh, my health is gone. There we go. I collided with it and it affected my health. So there we go. So there's the game over. But the game works is the main thing. And again, if you get that far, well then you can come up with other ideas as to what else can you add to the game. Other types of enemies and other kind of battles. You can have maybe another spaceship and it's moving after you and running around and you're trying to shoot the asteroid at the same time. Okay, let's try that, and I hope you find that find it fun and find it of use, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.